how we're doing with our teams, how we're doing with, with our clients. And again, are we worthy of trust? Are we building that relationship? Do we keep the commitments we say we're going to do? And that's a big, huge thing. So thanks, Scott, for reading that. Appreciate it. While we have everybody on, before I turn the time over to Belinda, I'm building out the Strengths Finders spreadsheet and profile folders and so forth. I wonder if you can help me, those of you who've taken, I've got a number of you who I don't have your profiles. I know that they were probably sent to Kyle, and rather than make Kyle try and send all of them to me, if I read your name off, can you please send me your profile? Ashley Labram, Ashley Hosang, Shantae, I know you guys may have sent them to Kyle, but I just don't have them. Shantae, Mariah, John, Arturo, Maria, Joe, Scott, and Kyle. So if you can send those to me, and then also as I'm building this out, I need your month and year that you started with the company. And if you have a group of people that you lead, who are those people that you lead? Who reports to you? So that's for everybody, by the way. So for all of you, if you can send me your start date, again, just the month and the year, and then who reports to you, if you have people that report to you. So appreciate that. If you can get that to me today, I'm just working on building this out. So Maria, yes.
Can you remind me exactly what you're asking for?
So this is the Strength Finder
reminder email.
Yes, I will. I can send you an email.
Okay, that would be great.
Strength Finder assessment. So
is that the one we did from the book?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll send out a reminder to everybody, or an email to everybody, so we can get that. So perfect. Okay. Thank you. So we're glad to continue on with where we started last week. Belinda was going through the KPI metric, all kinds of good stuff when it comes to numbers and running your business. So Belinda, I'm going to turn it over to you. And then at the end, we'll kind of wrap it up, and so you can toss it back to me, but it's all yours right now.
Okay. I don't suppose you guys can see this yet, huh?
Can't see anything yet, no.
All right, hang on. Working on it. Where's the share button?
To the right.
Ah, yeah. Okay. That one.
Now it's coming up. There you go.
Okay.
You got it.
Right. But I don't want to show the course outline. Which one's that now? Display settings, is that the one? Just duplicate, swap presenter view and slideshow, duplicate slideshow. Help anybody who knows these things. Oh, what do you see now?
Now we see the course outline.
Right.
And it's okay. And now we see the cycle.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
I think I got it.
And I'll watch for hands for you. And if anybody else, if I miss anybody, just let me know. So
okay, great, fantastic. So good morning, and welcome. And those of us who were here last week had a quick introduction to what we're doing. And just for the sake of those who did not see this or had time to listen to it, I'm just going to really quickly go through a very 5-minute recap. So we're going to be talking about today and next week about how to effectively manage our operations in our staffing business. And it is impactful on all leaders in the staffing industry, including those who are in the sales arena, because you, as the sales side of the team, have a tremendous impact on the staffing operation. And so it's important that salespeople have a really good understanding of what is involved. And so we will touch on that as well. Okay, now, oh, so enter is the next one. Maybe not. How do I get to the next one?
Just,
Oh,
there you
I
go.
guess you click on the top, not on the bottom. Okay. As I told you last week, the course outline, we started basically, we ran through the principles of business management and how these business management principles apply to our operation. And then I told you we would look at profit and loss statements so that we could understand financials. And then we would look at how to proactively manage our KPIs and how to understand our numbers. So if you recall, business principles consist of 4 significant and main ones: forecasting, planning, controlling, and reporting. The forecasting is very much on an executive and a financial level, and it pushes out the long-term view for 3 to 5 or more years. Planning is something that all of us would get involved in, and that planning includes anything from the annual budget down to the weekly and the daily operations planning and financial planning. Controlling is where the operations team lives pretty much for the most part in the daily driving and controlling of the operations team and the nuts and the bolts of the business. And then, of course, reporting, we report back so that we can review how well we've done against our plan and adjust our course accordingly. And to me, I always think of our staffing business as being a cruise ship. You know, it's a ship. And so the reporting helps us is the compass by which we can then readjust our course to make sure that if we got a little bit off, that we can readjust back to the same and correct course where we wanted it to head to in the first place. Short interval control there at the bottom is the principle of managing your controls if you have daily and weekly controls. The concept being that if you check your numbers very often, just if you check the compass bearings very often, every hour, every few hours, and it veers off a little bit, then the correction path is a very small correction, rather than if you say, well, I'm setting the course on Monday and I'll see on Friday how it went. If you're off by half a degree, then by Friday, you're going to be much further off the course. You guys get the concept. So that's what the short interval control is. And then we talked about forecasting versus planning and how that looks. And we won't go over it again. And then running our staffing business, essentially what all the things are that are involved. So this is where I'm going to pick it up. Most successful staffing managers, not just staffing, most successful any managers that run a business will plan ahead. They don't leave things to happenstance. They know their numbers. They know their numbers. They know what's a good number. A, they know the important numbers. B, they know when those numbers are good, and they know when those numbers are bad. And they're very strategic in their operation. And what does that word really mean, strategic? We use it a lot. What does it mean? It means that we think ahead. We think ahead of how we're going to behave and the actions we're going to take in our daily business so that we get to a certain point. So, for instance, we try to, and we'll talk about how safety impacts us next week, but we try to make everybody aware of safety. We don't just say, well, be safe out there. Have a nice day. We remind everybody Safety, it's important. Don't, wear non-slip shoes. Be careful. Watch where you're going. Don't stick your hand in machines and things. Why? Because our strategic approach is to keep people's focus on safety out there so that they don't do stupid things, so that they don't have injuries, so that it doesn't impact our business. So that's an example of strategy. So somebody please read for us here what number 1 to 5 says. Anybody? I can make somebody volunteer. Shane.
I got it. Know what the critical elements are that propel your business forward. Know what the critical elements are that put it at risk. Quantify number 1 and number 2 against expectations compared to the norm, or the expectations or norm. Track number 3 daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Make immediate corrections as needed based upon data in number 3, short interval control.
Yes, applying the concept of short interval control. So make the make corrections immediately that are needed. Thank you, Shane. Okay, key result areas. Who has ever heard of key result areas? Anybody? This is a term that's familiar to anyone? Probably.
Yeah, OKRs, or is it the same concept?
What's that?
It's objective key results. It's a
Yep. APIs.
It is. It's objective key results is probably more comparable to KPIs. Okay, but it's the partner. It's the partner. So somebody read key result areas bullets for us.
So the first bullet,
I'll read it.
Oh,
I think that was Tara.
Mm-hmm. You want me to go ahead, Kara, or you got it?
No, I was just saying that first bullet point, I think, is what she's wanting read. So go ahead.
Okay. Knowing the one starting with knowing how the different key result areas of your business are performing can help you to assess where your business is strong, where it is weaker, and what factors you can change for the better.
thank you. And let's read the first one there as well.
Okay. The area in which improvement is sought for is called a key result area, KRA. And the parameters within improvement is expected. It's called key performance indicators, KPI.
Right. So we're all familiar with KPIs.
Yes.
We talk about it every day. We live by it, we breathe it, we sleep it, we nightmare it, you name it. We don't very often talk about the key result areas. And like I say, the two go together, and this is just for the purposes of clarification. So KRAs are tracked with KPIs, and the purpose of it is to help you identify the areas that are critical to your business and to be able to manage it proactively. Typically, you probably have 3 to 5 KPIs per KRA. You don't want to have too many because we can. Some of us are statistic junkies, and the numbers are fascinating. But you can get lost, in all the statistics and all the numbers, and lose focus on the things that will drive your business forward. Think of it as an instrument panel in the steering. Where's the captain in the ship again? On they're on the
Bow.
yeah.
The
Well,
bridge,
anyway,
the bridge.
the bridge. Thank you. On the bridge, it's got all sorts of instruments, right? And everything tells you everything about the technicalities of the ship, and it's good to know. And it tells them which doors are closed and what's been sealed off and all that sort of thing in the ship. But knowing which sections of the ship are sealed off does not help them steer the ship any better, right? So in the same way, not all your statistical data is instrumental and is critical and is needed for you to be able to steer your ship at the right pace in the right direction. So be aware of that. Okay, any questions on
Belinda,
key result
would you,
areas? Yes.
could you just give maybe a quick example of what a KRA in our business would be and maybe one or two KPIs underneath it?
Absolutely, Carrie. I'm so glad
Thank
you
you.
asked. Because, hello, there we go. Some key result areas in our industry would be these 6. There could be more. None of these are unfamiliar to us. Financial, right? Recruiting, safety, sales. We don't really talk much about training and development, but here we are on this call, right? Marketing, I'm sure Jessica would agree, is most definitely a key result area. And there may even be a few more. You know, these things are according to the leadership of the company. They may add a few more. We could probably have some more. I mean, I didn't really think much further than this, but there could be more areas. Are there any others that you can suggest that I did not put on this list? Perhaps?
Probably Kyle's area in HR.
HR, absolutely right. I did not Izzy here.
Yes.
Oh, very important. Just didn't put it on the list, but yes, HR, huge, important KRA. Absolutely. Anything else that I missed? Anyway, right. So to your question, Carrie, financial, the financial KRA, anybody throw out a few KPIs for finance that we would want to focus on or that we track?
Associates on assignment.
For financial?
That's
Okay.
what- no.
That's what drives our finances is associates on assignment. Part of that,
Okay.
there's
Would
a
you put that-
derivative of that.
No, Joe.
And that derivative
no, Joe.
is
I can see
Okay.
Scott shaking his head back there.
You
First-
can definitely
I
categorize
didn't
it
mean to
as
sit you down,
financial.
Joe. I'm sorry.
You can categorize it as financial. You could categorize it as recruiting. But yes, absolutely, associates on assignment.
Mhm.
What else?
How about GMPs?
GMPs?
Gross margin.
A gross margin, GM?
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
But
Yes,
one thing
of
is to
course.
distinguish between leading indicators and lagging indicators, and gross profit, gross profitability, sales, revenue numbers. The problem is they're great, but they're all out of your rearview mirror.
Yes.
They're not predictive, and they aren't causal. They just are results. And that isn't so much a lever. I mean, it is good to know before your cash runs out and the bank shuts you down or your creditors shut you down to know some of those things off the financial statement, but they really are it's a historical report of what happened, and that I would generally not feel like those are KPIs. I mean, they are kind of, but they're lagging. And if we're lucky, we get our results out on the
They're
12th.
key result indicators, not key performance indicators.
Yeah, it is at the end of the day, everything we do boils down to those financial statements, and they represent the sum total of all of our activities, our progress, our results. Everything that we did pretty much shows up on those. Now, there's probably some new innovation we did, or there's, some leads that don't turn into sales. There's some things that don't show up, but pretty much everything that really materially matters shows up on those. And there's a report of that comes out about 14 days after the end of the month. And so they are what they are. But I think it's interesting to just think in terms of what causes sales, what causes revenue, Well, it's number of customers, it's number of assignments at a customer, it's the margin, the markup that we do. It's, so you think about what are all the causal things that are more leading indicators. And then you'd say, if it's, you're like, well, customers cause revenue. Well, what causes customers? And then you go back a step and think, okay, it's number of calls, it's number of needs audits, it's our needs audit to close ratio. It's then you're like, well, what causes that? And you kind of can just go up the trail thinking about what are the leading indicators that cause this. And then you have to think, well, at the end of the day, I can't focus on 1,000 things. What are the few things that are the most important? For a while, we've chosen sales. And so then we think, okay, what are the key, for me, the KPI for the business would be the sales KPIs and the fulfillment ones. That would be, for me, I would call on-site and account management, maybe another KRA that we didn't say, distinguish that from recruiting, but I would focus on sales and recruiting have been our problem and our focus. And then I would think about the KPIs that are leading that would indicate that that's an activity that says, if I do this activity, this will cause that. And that's what I want. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but just distinguish from leading and lagging indicators.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Ted. Any comments or questions for Ted on that, or no? That makes sense? Okay, so yes, so you're right, Ted. Some of these are really key result indicators rather than performance indicators. But here you can see for the 4 or 5 areas that I did list on the other screen, on the other slide, what sort of things we're looking at. Really, a leading indicator for safety would be number of incidents or near misses. Those are always an indicator of where the focus is on the floor with associates. Are they negligent? Are they paying attention? And it's a red flag that tells us that that people are not being careful enough, right, Kyle? And that we need to up the ante with safety focus there, because near misses are about to turn into injuries. All right, any more comments on this? Okay, so why are these KRAs and KPIs and KRIs, why are they all so important to us? Because they help you as a manager and your team members to not only clarify what their key areas are that they need to focus on, it also helps them to accordingly set goals and objectives, because they know what they need to focus on and where their energy needs to go. It enables us to make decisions that add value to our business, not just decisions for the sake of decisions, right? It helps us to focus on our results rather than on our activities. And this is such a big challenge in operations. Anyone on this call who is knee deep in alligators in operations like Mariah and Arturo, Tara, you guys, Ivan, you guys know, it's so easy to get lost in the murky waters of operations and the minutia and the details and all the many things that go on at any given moment in a branch operation. And this helps to pull you out of that murkiness so that you can come up for air and see where you are, right? It helps us to communicate the purpose of our areas to others and to align our areas to the organization's business plan or their strategic plan. And then finally, as we said here, it enables us to prioritize our activities, which means we can improve our time management and our work management and our Any comments on this slide?
This goes real well, Belinda, with one of our Q12, of course, that talks about having clear expectations. I know what's expected of me at work, and if you don't have this type of stuff in front of you, it's hard to know what's expected of you and you will get lost. So I think that's a really good point here, is that it helps people to know what's expected, and that allows them to have a very clear vision going forward.
Yeah.
I think if I could comment, these are the things that help us be proactive, right? And I really liked Ted's little leading, lagging thing. We need to affect the business up front. These things will help us do that. And then the lagging indicators tell the story. It's a rear view, and you can't really make immediate adjustments on that. It does help a little bit, but we should just be celebrating with our lagging indicators. If we're doing all these leading things and proactively working, then everything that comes out that kind of is rear view and is the story told should be good indicators that we are doing all these things up front. So I like the use of both leading and lagging indicators.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Most definitely.
Jessica had a question or comment.
Yeah, I think a key piece to KPIs for me is they save time, and because of that, save money as well. It's much easier to identify that something is or is not working when you have clear KPIs as a benchmark to measure those against, especially in marketing. So we could be doing a campaign. We expect to see X by this date. When you're not seeing that, that's where you either reassess what's happening or make a few changes. But without KPIs in place, that could go on for a substantially longer amount of time because you're not having that benchmark to measure success against. So I think from a strategic standpoint, time efficiency and then overall savings also as a result of your KPIs.
Yes, very, very true. Thank you for that. Any other comments? Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes. The financial KRA, and the budgeting portion of it, which is in the four principles of business under the plan, right? So what I'm going to do is just again, we look on these financial metrics for revenue, profit, payroll, bonuses, admin cost, operational costs, insurance costs, travel and meals, training costs. What else, Scott? Yeah. Write-offs, right? Bad debt, etc. What else, Scott? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, so gross margin is obviously important, which is
Obviously.
which is fundamental to your cost of goods sold.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, your EBITDA, which doesn't include your interest or your
Right. Don't.
depreciation, which is basically operational efficiency.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Don't get too ahead of me. Okay. So I am, no. I am going to go to the Excel spreadsheet because it's easier to see than, what's this now? Oh, that's not what I want to see. Right. Okay. Hang on. Give me one moment here. Let me change to that one. Sorry for that. Thought I had this file open, but apparently I don't. So just gotta open it quick. Gosh, sorry guys to do this. Just had to. This is what happens at 2 a.m. Brain shuts down. Okay. Sorry.
I'm happy to share it if you want, the one you emailed out.
Yeah, it's actually, it is that one, but it's a different one.
Okay.
Because I wanted to branch prelim. It must be this one. Is it this one? It's this one. I'll just check. Okay. All right. So what I wanted to do is just go quickly over the budget with you. And what I'll do is this one is on my slide. So I will share the slideshow for this particular one. And then we can go over the one that that I sent out. Sorry, guys, little technical detail there that apparently I wasn't prepared. Can you see my budget? Okay.
Yep.
So I don't want to spend too much time on the budget. I just want to show it to everybody and make a few comments, which is that when we budget in our business, we look at everything. We don't just go, well, look, let's see how much revenue do we want this year. I mean, we look at every single thing that could possibly impact it in a positive way or in a negative way, and we estimate, and it's based on historical data, and it's also based on the economic climate that we're in and the environment that we're in. How, what's the economy? Are we in a recession? Are we heading to a recession? Is it growing? Is it booming? All of those factors get taken into account when we look at the budget. And we also set the goal for ourselves, which is how much growth do we want every year? And based on those factors, we then estimate what money we intend to make for the year, and that becomes our plan for the year. We break it down monthly, and we measure against plan. So that's really what I want to do. Point out on the budget, and we will go through the detail of the P&L next. Okay, so how do you like my little bee? Cute, right? I was going to do
Beautiful.
B. That's very funny. Okay, so go ahead and look at that Excel spreadsheet that I did send to everyone last night. Tara, did you? Yeah, everybody got it, I hope, right? Everyone has it. If you open it, I'm going to run you through it, even though I don't know where it is. But yeah, Ted, would you be so kind and share that I sent over to you guys so I can get my bearings here? Oops.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was unmuted. I was trying to find the thing to unmute.
Oh.
So yeah, give me just a second.
Yeah. Goodness.
Oops. 4 screens open, so it makes it difficult to. Oh, goodness. I will just share and then. I know what the issue is. Sorry about that. I had it on the same screen as this. Everybody see that?
Here we go.
Yep.
Okay. Can we make it bigger? And can you scroll to the right? Oh, so we can just pull the June to the left there, if you would, all the way to the left. Yeah. Okay, and then just make it larger.
More.
More. Can
There's
everyone
three
see
more.
those numbers? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ted. All right,
Yep.
so line 13 is total revenue, which of course we all know is driven by, like Joe said, associates on assignment and sales, right? And it's also known as the top line on the profit and loss statement. The next section there is, you see there's a word on line 16, it says COGS. Who knows what that stands for?
Cost of goods sold.
Cost of goods sold, correct. In other words, what did our sales cost us? Because of course there's a cost, right? And underneath COGS, in that section there, you see all the different things that factor into COGS, your cost of goods sold. So you've got labor. What kind of labor is this? Is this our salaries?
It's the temp payroll.
It's the
and
temp
taxes.
payroll. Correct. It's temp payroll. And of course, there's on top of that, we also have to pay payroll taxes and
Workers' comp insurance.
That's right.
Temp benefits.
Yep. All of those things are there. Can you scroll it up just a tad there, Ted?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So so we measure the total cost of our goods sold. And then the next line, 27, is gross profit or gross margin. Okay, it's used interchangeably. And who can tell me how do we calculate gross profit?
There's a difference, Belinda.
Yeah, I would say they're not interchangeable. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay.
Gross profit is a dollar amount. Gross margin is percentage of revenue.
Okay.
Which you have listed as GP percentage. GP percentage and gross margin would be the same. Those are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying. Yes, quite correct. All right. So how do we calculate the gross profit dollars? Anyone?
Give you a
Is
hint.
it subtracting the total COGS from the total sales revenue?
That is correct.
Total cost of goods sold cost. Yeah. Line 25 from line 13.
Correct. Okay, good. All right, and then we calculate the percentage, which is line 28. So tell me.
Why is that important, do you guys think? Why do you want to know the percentage?
For me, it's good to know what my profit's going to be when I'm figuring out, when I'm talking with a client, how much I'm going to be able to charge. But I have to know what my percentage is going to be, what we're shooting for, so we know we can make profit. That's one way. So
yeah, I think for me, I like to know what our revenue number is, but most everything after that, I kind of manage on a percentage basis. This column Q in orange here matters more to me than the yellow. I mean, both are important. They're both important, but I spend a lot of time in Q because it's predictive and it's comparable. Data doesn't have much meaning in itself. If I could just throw out, I can say 240,000. You're like, okay, what does that mean? You don't know what it means. And especially if we don't compare it to say, or if I even say, you don't know that that's my revenue or whatever, but if I say revenue 240,000, okay, is that good? Is that bad? What were you expecting it to be? What was it last month? What was it last year? What was it last quarter? And you still can compare those, but for me, the percentages of financials, which everything on the financials has a percentage, and it's usually a percentage of revenue. So that's always the 100% right here. But everything else is a percentage of that. And then you can make comparisons, and you can also, it's predictive to say, okay, if that holds and I did this revenue, what would that look like? And so I'm always trying to think about the business to say, okay, what if we could get sale revenue to 2.5 million? And then you would say, okay, what causes that? How would you go back to those KPIs and KPAs and say, how would I get to 2.5 million, and what would have to be true in order for that to happen? But then you would say, okay, what gross, and then at that point, I wouldn't think in terms of, well, what's my gross profit? I would think, what's my gross margin? Okay, could I get to 19%? And what would have to be true in order for that to happen? And then you sit and manage that, and then you can start to predict and plan. And the other thing is the percentage is you understand what you're going to attack. If you're like, okay, I need to grow my revenue. If we looked at all the ones, we could say, okay, where's my biggest opportunity here? Like you could look at P8 versus P9 versus P10 versus P11, and gigs would be on P12. And you think, okay, where do I have opportunity there? If we were going to look at cutting cost, where's our biggest cost opportunity from a percentage standpoint? Where's most of our cost of goods sold cost lie? That's a question.
Okay. All right.
Labor.
Labor, 70.48%. Anyway, that's why percentage is really important to me, that I think it allows me to compare and contrast and understand everything's relative size and weight in the scheme of things. And it also helps me be predictive and try to plan and do things for the future to understand what I'm trying to do. And, and that's the financial plan for me and the financial management. And then you would build a budget around that. And then but again, a budget's just a piece of paper unless it has plans that demonstrate a reasonable chance of what has to be true in order for this to happen. If we were to go back to that budget thing Belinda had, you would say, okay, so we said, Texas is going to be, for example, I think, well, Texas and Las Vegas, $1 million this year. That's brand new stuff for them. We're a long ways off of that, but there was plans that said, okay, so why did I say that? Why did I think there would be $1 million in those things? Trades had a plan of $11 million. It's great. And I pushed Belinda to ramp, move those high. And then she goes back to the team and tries to sit and think, what can we do and why? Like she said, they look at everything. But then at the end of the day, you build a plan that has a bunch of activities, and hopefully those activities have KPIs attached so you can measure, like a speedometer on a car and your RPMs and your gas gauge, to say, are things okay? Are we moving in the right direction at the right pace? Certainly a GPS matters, because you could be going right at the right speed and everything, but you were trying to get to New York and you're heading down to Mexico and you're going in the complete wrong direction. So we need that type of KPI also. One last thing, and then I'll shut up. I've got a lot of different businesses and I've run them, and maybe this is style, but I'm a top-down guy. I like to look at, and I've had a lot of managers that are bottom up. So they go through, they look at every expense, every customer, everything. And they're like, we did this year. This is what it looked like next year. And we're going to add 5%. And they kind of set a goal. And if we did that, the trades goal would have been like 7.2 million. Because we would have just looked at everything we had and would said, oh, we can do a little bit more. And we would just bottom up from everything that we have. And I'm definitely a top-down guy where I'm like, well, why can't we do 11? What would have to be true for that to happen? And we kind of think about what's possible, and then we see if we feel good about it, and then we try to backfill a plan. And I will say, I think you always end up aiming higher. And I think when you aim higher, you achieve more. So I'm definitely, for good or ill, I'm definitely a top-down guy where I think of what is possible. And then I think what would have to be true in order for that to happen and come to fruition. And then how likely is that? And again, I don't want to do things that have like a 10% probability. I try to be in the 60-70% range to think, there's a 60-70% chance of this. But if you look at like sports, as Belinda doesn't like my sports metaphors, but most of the sports aren't 100%. Nobody shoots 100% from the 3-point line. Nobody hits 100% of their bats. You don't get 100% of your shots in the goal in soccer. Nothing's 100%, so we shouldn't be aiming for that. And you think, what are the probabilities? And I think I don't like baseball, but I think like 30% is a world-class hitter, something like that or less, but it's not 100%. Now, I don't want to be a 30% chance on our goals, but I don't think they have to be 100% chance either. And bottom up, you're kind of aiming for 100%. That's like government budgeting. Anyway, so that's the why on all this works, that we're trying to do a plan, and then that's why I use percentages. And I'm done talking.
Okay, great. So on that note, to the light industrial people, what is the target? Oh, let me start with this on gross margin percentage. What is the minimum gross margin percentage that we want to see on a P&L? Anybody? Around 15. We don't want to see anything less than 15. Am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's exactly right.
All right.
But another key point is to make sure that everybody understands the difference between 15% and, let's say, 25%. And I could define those, but hopefully some of them are like, no, I know what you're talking about. Markup is not the same as margin. And so if you want a 15% margin, you have to mark it up, and it's an easy calculation. But it's hard to do on your head. I have to have a spreadsheet that, I can just kind of look at it and say, but it takes about a 22 to 25% markup or so to get a 15% margin, probably more like 30-ish, but I mean,
Above
I don't
30.
think if I actually did the math, because you're dealing with just inverses, I actually don't think it's 30%. It's probably more like 22, 23, but then there's other factors that we haven't considered that you don't consider in your math when you do your salesperson. But anyway, the key is that markup does not equal margin. So when you're like, oh yeah, I sold this deal, it was 32%, we're not getting 32%. We're probably getting 15, 16 if we're lucky. So just distinguish. Markup does not equal the margin and the gross profit percentage we're talking here.
Yeah, very good.
And
very
when
good point.
Belinda said 15%, she's talking this number right here as a gross profit percentage. Scott had his hand up.
Yeah, we got three hands, Kyle, and then Shane, and then Scott.
Hey, Kyle, go.
Okay, I just wanted to point out that gross profit or gross margin percentage are the dollars, and if you think of it in dollars, those need to be the dollars that pay for all of your fixed expenses, all the expenses below that line. So I think a lot of that gross margin percentage depends largely on your cost structure below that line. If you have a big cost structure, you have a lot of infrastructure, and then you need more gross profit dollars to pay for that.
Yeah,
And
we're getting to that. Yes, we are.
Now if you're able to do a lot of volume and have a small infrastructure to support that, then your gross margin percentage can be smaller to support everything that's below that line. So I think a lot of the what percentage do you need? Obviously, the more the better, but it really depends largely on the cost structure of the company below that.
Yes,
if we had a $10 gazillion deal, we might even be happy with 8% if it didn't require any new infrastructure to support it, for example, right?
The difference there would be incremental dollars. You just look at,
right.
Okay, so yeah, this is 8%. That's terrible, but it's a $9 million or $10 million a month account. Okay, that's let's see, whatever 8% is, $80,000 or 800,000, I guess it'd be $80,000 a month, right to the bottom line that we wouldn't have, which still is very dangerous. But anyway, that in those cases, you'd think about incremental dollars. And we make incremental expense decisions and sunk cost decisions, and we also make incremental revenue decisions to say, okay, yeah, this is terrible. It doesn't meet our model. It's going to pull our gross margin down. Not our gross profit, but that's why also you look at gross margin as a percentage, because then you realize doing this deal at 8% is going to pull that down to, and it's so big, it's going to pull it down to 12%. Should we do it? And it's kind of a story problem thing where you think, okay, so, and the only way you would do that is you think in terms of incremental profit dollars. And
So yeah, I get the point there is percentages can depend some, and sometimes the dollars themselves really matter too. But it does depend on cost structure, and it depends on if that's a good situation for the overall, so just thought I'd bring that up.
Shane, did you put your hand down?
I did. I was just taking it off the screen, but I'm pretty much right in line with what Kyle's saying. When we go out and we quote rates and we quote a markup, that 35% markup may not equal a 15% GP. And the reason is because our workers' comp may be very high. We also have to look at a GP versus a true GP. And what I mean by that is, are we including the background check? Are we including the drug test? Are there additional costs, like safety gear, that we have to incur, which brings our overall profit down? So in sales, that's what's so important about the needs audit, is finding out what that client's expecting before we just go in blind with a general 35% markup. Because I've had situations in the past where I've thought, oh, I'll be right around 35%. Then I get the workers' comp back and it is just astronomical. And so that's it. We take all that into consideration and our overall cost of doing business.
Great. Scott had a hand up, and then Maria as well. Scott, did you take yours down?
Yeah. Just again, Ted's talking about, well, if you do the math, then 22% markup is going to equal 15% margin, and that's not entirely true. Shane pretty much covered it. It's your markup is all indicative on what your cost of goods sold are. If your cost of goods are extremely high, your markup needs to be higher in order to achieve gross margin. And some of that is direct relation, so indirect, or direct costs. Some of that is indirect. So you have to know what your cost structure is in order to mark up your revenue or your stuff properly in order to achieve a desired gross margin.
Great. And we had one other hand, Maria.
I think Scott answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyways, and maybe like a really stupid question. But why, if we know that when we have a markup, we're not going to get a good percentage back, why are we not charging our clients a higher markup? Does that make sense?
The market forces, I'd love to go back to our lawn mowing business analogy we give. I'd love to charge $1,000 to cut your lawn, but you can get 1,000 other people to do it for $35. And so I can't charge. We've got to be, and that's also a factor of how good we are. And so then you think this is where strategy comes into place, which is a function of leadership, to think the point of strategy is to create margin and to differentiate yourself and to have a sustainable business, to say, how do we get a client? Because that's the whole point of business, any business, whether you're a dentist or a staffing or a software company, it's to acquire customers and keep them and do it profitably. That's what business is. And strategy helps you do that. Strategy helps you get them. Strategy helps you keep them. And strategy helps you do it profitably. And that's the point of strategic planning and strategy. And then you build plans to do that, and you do all that. But it's because of the market. We can't just go and say, you know what, we are doing a bad job at workers' comp, or you're a bad job, we're going to charge you 42% markup. Now, if you can sell that, yeah, we should sell every deal at everything we can. But customers have alternatives. The best negotiating tool for anybody in any negotiation is a BATNA, a best alternative to no agreement. And so when a customer has alternatives, that's again where competitive advantage and differentiation stuff for us, that makes it, they don't have an alternative to say, nobody can do what you do for me. And I like it so much. Nobody's so easy to work with. Nobody fills with such quality workers. Nobody has 100% fill rate and does the customer service you do. Nobody does. Each of those things could bump up our margin a little bit and have a customer worth it to them. You know, there's a difference between an old beat up Subaru and a brand new top end Lamborghini or something. You know, there's a reason that people pay $3,000 for the one thing and $500,000 for the other. Yet they both have 4 tires and an engine, and all they do is they drive you from one point to the other. So we can charge more, Maria, but it's complicated. And at the end of the day, it comes down to we better be good at our main thing, which is recruiting. If we're just throwing warm bodies over the thing, or we can't even fill the orders, how the heck, and I didn't feel like saying heck, can we charge anything? So, I mean, we have got to be good at what we're supposed to be good at, and we have to fill orders, and we have to fill orders with quality people, and we have to be amazing at account management and service that client and do walkthroughs and do value-added services and then sales can start selling for more because we have referrals, we have customers that love us, we have other alternatives. If we have no other alternative, this is the only deal we're going to close this month, and the customer's like, it's 22% or nothing. Now it's like, okay, do I take nothing or do I take 22%? Because I have no alternatives. So we need to get alternatives, which means we need to have a robust sales funnel, and we need to do a good job and be confident in ourselves. And so that's a great question, but it's a tricky thing, and it's really driven by market forces and combined with our ability to interact in the market with what is our competitive advantage and our differentiators. And then each of those things have things that drive those to say we're making choices. And each choice is an opportunity cost that says, okay, I can't be 1,000 things. So how are we going to try to attack the market to be different and to win business? And again, at the end of the day, it's all about, I got a customer, I kept them, and I did it profitably.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Maria, don't ever think it's a dumb question. If we don't ask questions, we don't learn, and that was a great learning session there.
Extremely important question and principle to understand in our business because it's what drives our business. So it's an excellent question. All right, guys, I'm going to push forward so we can get through this and conclude for today. I'd like to push down to, and Ted, I bumped you off the screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I found it, by the way. So I'm going to push down to line 30 for expenses, SG&A. Who knows what SG&A stands for? Anybody?
Somebody from trades might know. Is it just EBITDA?
It's selling general and administrative expenses.
That is correct. Thank you. Yes. And it is also known as, people talk about it as the cost of doing business. This is the cost of doing business, is your SG&A expenses. And who knows about where percentage-wise, Ted very, very correctly said that percentage means more than the dollars, right? So what percentage of SG&A do you want to ideally see not more or higher of on a P&L? Where do we want to land with the SG&A? Anybody know? Around where? 11, 12%. So this particular one is actually good because actually it's not, it's high. If you look on line 52, that's our total SG&A for June for trades. And we are over 13. You don't want to see higher than 4. That's really your ceiling is 13%. For June, we were almost 15. And year to date, also we were right at 15. What impacts that percentage? And I know we're running out of time, so I don't want to belabor the points too much, but what drives that percentage? what must change for that percentage to come down to the 12-ish where we want it to be? What must change?
To lower your expenses?
That's right. Either lowering your expenses or upping your what?
Your sales.
Revenue.
Sales
Upping your-
activities.
Sales.
That's it. So those are your two variables, right? Or the two elements that impact that number. Okay. Now my favorite line 54. Who knows what EBITDA stands for? And you all knew it was coming. I told you I was going to ask you this.
Ashley got her hand up.
This is my favorite question because you always picked on me on every single meeting. It stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
That is correct. Is that correct, Scott? Textbook answer. Okay, very good.
Yep.
Very good. And how do we calculate that? And I'm just going to say the answer. We calculate it by adding the COGS and the SG&A together, and we deduct it from our revenue. Okay, that's what's left. That's what's left in the piggy bank after
So
we've
why do
paid
we, I would
everybody
say,
and
why do
everything.
we calculate that versus, or why do we call it that versus net profit? And what's the difference?
Okay,
So
was the
we're out
next
of time,
question.
so
Go
maybe
ahead.
we need to roll. I don't know if you've got like 1 minute left, or seems like we have more.
Well, I was hoping to get through the P&L today, but yes, this is really where the meat and the potatoes of it is, and we still have a few slides. So I am happy to just conclude it here today and probably finish with the first 10 minutes of next week, finish the financial.
Yeah, I think that's good, Belinda. We don't rush through it. We don't need to rush through because we can just keep going. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think we could spend, I mean, as you heard, maybe I overwhelmed you guys with but you realize it's not just simple that we're like, well, let's do $1 million. There's layers upon layers upon layers and factors within factors to think, how do we run this business and how do we aim for what we're doing and what choices do we make to do that? And how does this impact that? And what else? And then you've got to think, well, what's going on in our customers' world? Because they're having the same challenge. What's going on in our competitors' world? What's going on in our suppliers and vendors' world? And you think about all those forces and factors upon you. I mean, it's complex, and it all boils down to this is really a decision-making tool. It's data that says this is what happened, and then hopefully it has predictive elements that help us make decision. I mean, I will say we were kind of saying, well, the margins, it is a mathematic certainty that if you, like Techie said, if you mark something up 25%, if you mark your cost up 25%, you will have 20% margin. But we also said, well, not really. It's because you didn't get your cost right. And so then when it finally produces the financial statement, it doesn't know. But if you get your costs perfectly done and you mark them up 25%, your cost of goods sold, just your direct cost, you will have 20% margin. There's just no way around the math. It's a given. If you have a 32% markup, you will have 24% gross profit. You have to. So when that doesn't happen, it means you screwed up on the numbers, or the numbers shifted. And so we screwed up as a business. We didn't manage the numbers right, and our costs got out of control. And which a workers' comp accident would do that with a high deductible plan. Extra tests or things going out of line there. You know, there's things that can happen, but we didn't manage the business, and so our costs changed, and so then the number didn't change. And that's why we say you might have to mark it up 30% to get 15%, because that tells you that we've got control issues in our business that we aren't in control of our business, and we don't know our costs that tightly. So then we have to build in that much of a buffer, because 15%, if that's our minimum, then all we have to mark stuff up is like 18%. Well, we've got to, we can't do that. So that tells you the level of inefficiency and problems within smart staffing and smart trades and smart whatever. Because it is a given that a certain percentage of costs, you just do the inverse math, and that's how you know what your margin is. Okay, sorry, I've made us later.
No, yeah, that's good. And so, yeah, Belinda, if you can just carry on from next
Yeah.
week from where we left off here.
Yep.
Again, we're not in a rush to get through these. So if it takes another 2 weeks, total, that's fine. Not a problem.
It really is, and I appreciate that, Carrie, because this is where it all starts. This is how we build the business to being successful or failing. It starts with understanding the finances, understanding the profit and loss statements, understanding the planning, understanding managing these costs. And it's Scott's pet subject, for good reason. And it's really important that we as operators, we're the ones running the business. Scott doesn't run the business. Ted doesn't run the business. Everybody on this call that is out there operating and in the field and making decisions every day, you are the people who drive these numbers. And so it's critical that you have an absolutely solid understanding of what it all means. And yes, I know it's a whole sea of numbers, but you need to understand how to read this map, this financial map. You must understand how to read it. So yes, thank you. I appreciate you giving us the time to go through this. Thank you for your participation this morning.
Yeah,
Over
thanks
to you,
everybody.
Carrie.
Yeah, appreciate it. So I've received a few of your assessments. Again, I'll send an email out to everybody just to remind you, if those of you who haven't had a chance yet. We appreciate your comments. It was really good. Being a math person like me, this was a great opportunity to learn more about how to manage what we're doing. So thanks, Belinda, and for the comments that we received from everybody. Maria, did you have one last comment there?
I did. I just wanted to remind everyone to please take the survey. It is really important for Ted and Carrie and Kyle to see your guys' answers. It is anonymous. We don't, so please take the survey.
Yep. Thank you. That's a good reminder. Yeah, please. We've had a couple, we had no participation. So when you see them, take a few seconds, jot down your responses, and we really appreciate that. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.